In today's class, we will continue with our Exadata learning, and specifically in today's class, we will learn about Exadata Components, Exadata Racks, Exadata Rack configurations, Exadata Versions, Exadata Hardware, more detailed discussion on Exadata Hardware, and high availability, scalability, disaster recovery features of Exadata, and Exadata offerings from Oracle. If you want to purchase Exadata, what are the various options you have? And finally, what are the support services available for Exadata? So Oracle has special support services offered for Exadata customers. You will understand the support system available for Exadata customers. So these are all very, very important concepts about Exadata that you need to understand before you start learning the technical things of Exadata. So with that note, let us start learning all these one by one. So first we will understand Exadata database machine components. By now you must have understood Exadata is a complex system. Exadata includes all the hardware, all the software required for Oracle database deployment. So we will first talk about the hardware components. In last class, you understood Exadata includes three primary components. What are those? Database servers, storage servers, InfiniBand network. But Exadata includes many other components also. So let us learn about various components in an Exadata system. Basically, Exadata system has two types of servers, the database servers, the storage servers. Storage servers will have the storage required for your database, and database servers is where you deploy your database instances. And these servers are connected together using InfiniBand networking technology. So you have InfiniBand switch, you have InfiniBand cables, which implement the Exadata networking. And you have Ethernet networking also, Ethernet switches, Ethernet cables, which implements the administration networks. Administration network is used by the administrators to administer Exadata, like database administrators, hardware administrators, storage administrators use admin network to manage Exadata system. So you will have admin switch, which is Ethernet switch, and Ethernet cables, which implement Ethernet networking. And Exadata includes power distribution units, which is supply power to all the components inside the rack. And depending on the model, in the old models, we have KVM switch also, which provides the keyboard, video, mouse capabilities for your rack. So these are the components, building blocks of an Exadata system. And you will find many of these components inside the rack. Okay, suppose if you take a quarter rack system, you will have 2 database servers, 3 storage servers. If you take a half rack system, you will have 4 database servers, 7 storage servers. If you take full rack system, you will have 8 database servers, 14 storage servers. So that way, you will have many of these components in the rack depending on the rack configuration that you purchase. As we learned yesterday, Exadata is available in rack configurations. You have small rack, medium rack, high-end rack. So basically you have quarter rack, which is the smallest configuration, smallest, less cost. You have quarter rack, half rack, full rack. This is something like a truss is available in small size, medium size, large size, XL size. Exadata is also available in different sizes, different configurations with different costs. Based on your workload requirements, budget requirements, you can purchase Exadata Racks. So Exadata is available in a rack. So what you are seeing now on this slide is Exadata Rack. So this is the typical Exadata rack that you get when you purchase Exadata. So this is very huge rack, very tall rack. It is 42 rack units in height. So each Exadata rack is 42 rack units in height. And each rack comes with two redundant power distribution units, which supply power to all the components inside the rack. And each rack also includes two 36-port quadruple data rate InfiniBand switches, which are capable of transferring data at 40 GB per second. Very high speed transfers. And Exadata rack also includes an administration switch, Cisco Ethernet switch for administration of the Exadata components. So these are all the standard components inside Exadata rack. So this is how the Exadata rack looks like. So inside this rack, you have all the servers, all the switches, all the cables, all the power distribution units, all other components. So you can see this diagram. For example, one of the server is pulled out. These are all blade servers. Okay, they are all very small form factor, and you can see the chassis is open. You can see the standard hardware like the fans, memory DIMMs, okay, and networking interface cards and various other standard hardware components. So that way you will have all these servers arranged inside this rack, okay, and all other components inside the rack. Now this slide shows you the cross-sectional overview of an Exadata rack and also shows you the component locations inside the rack. Though you don't need to understand the component locations and all that, because most of the time you may not get opportunity to physically touch or see Exadata rack, because generally Exadata racks are installed into data center and the DBAs work remotely, right? So if you are lucky, maybe you might get a chance to see the Exadata rack and hug and kiss Exadata rack and take a snap with Exadata rack. In such a situation, you can understand looking at the rack, what are the components, where are those components and all that, okay? Otherwise, you don't need to remember all these details. So this is the Exadata rack. In the middle of the rack, you will have KVM switch, which provides a keyboard and a monitor and a mouse to the servers inside the rack. This KVM switch is available in the lower versions up to X2 versions. Later versions, you don't find KVM switch. Then below the KVM switch, you have administration switch, Cisco Ethernet switch. Then below, you have InfiniBand switch. Above KVM switch, you have InfiniBand switch. InfiniBand switch interconnects all the servers inside. So Oracle uses InfiniBand networking technology. So you have InfiniBand switches below and above your KVM and administration switch. Then immediately above and below InfiniBand switches, you have compute nodes, which are your database servers. Okay, so here you have database servers. Again, here you have database servers. You observe my cursor movement. Then above and below database servers, you have storage servers. So these are all storage servers. These are all storage servers. Then at the bottom of the rack, okay, that rack unit number one, you will have another InfiniBand switches. InfiniBand switches are of two types: spine switch and a leaf switch. Spine switch, if present, will be at in the first okay unit number one. Then you will have leaf switches in the center like this. So that way, whenever you get an opportunity to physically see Exadata system, you can understand what are these components. Where is your switch? Where is your database server? Where is your storage server inside the rack? All right, now you got some idea about Exadata Rack, how it looks and how big it is, and the component locations inside the rack. Now let us learn more about Exadata Rack configurations. As I told you, if you want to purchase Exadata, Exadata is available in different configurations. Okay, so we call Exadata Rack configurations. Basically, Exadata Racks or rack configurations are available in two formats. One is standard rack configuration. Second is elastic rack configuration. Elastic rack was a new configuration introduced in X5 version. Okay, up to X4 version, we had only standard rack configuration. So what is standard rack? What is elastic rack? So let us discuss. Standard rack, as the name indicates, standard configuration, fixed configuration. Elastic rack, as the name indicates, elastic configuration, flexible configurations. So that is the difference. So when you purchase a standard rack comes with a fixed configuration. Under standard rack, you have 4 racks: eighth rack, quarter rack, half rack, full rack. So when you purchase standard rack, you will get a fixed configuration, meaning each rack will have certain amount of CPU, memory, hard disk, storage, network resources. Those are fixed. You cannot add or change this configuration. All right. So when Exadata was first released, Oracle popularized a concept called balanced configuration. Balanced configuration of the resources is required for optimal database performance. When the resources are unbalanced, that is where you get the performance bottlenecks. Suppose if a system has a balanced configuration, meaning for certain amount of workload, you need a certain amount of CPU, certain amount of memory, certain amount of network bandwidth, certain amount of storage resources, right? So when all these are mixed proportionately, like a curry has, okay, various components mixed proportionately. When you mix them in a proper fashion, balanced fashion, you will get good curry out of that. When you add more of one of the components, suppose you add more, mirchi or spicy, so it becomes very spicy. So that is not a balanced configuration. So when Oracle initially started shipping a rack configuration, they popularized a standard rack configuration. Idea is by using all the standard configurations, you will get optimal performance for your workload. So that is the idea behind standard rack configuration. Again, standard racks are available in 4 configurations: eighth rack configuration, quarter rack configuration, half rack configuration, full rack configuration. Because every customer is not having similar requirement. Every customer is not the same, right? You may have a small customer, you may have medium, mid-size customer, you may have enterprise level customer, big customer. So customers will have different requirements, different budgets. So to suit to all kinds of customers, you have different rack configurations. The eighth rack configuration is the smallest configuration with less cost. You can use it for basic workload, minimal workload deployment. Then you have full rack configuration, which is the highest configuration, and it is good for high-end workload. And of course, it is more cost compared to eighth rack. So, like a car is available in different editions: basic edition, mid-level edition, high-end edition. Under each edition, you have some features difference, right? Similarly, standard rack is available in 8th rack, quarter rack, half rack, and full rack. Now in the bracket, you can see the number of servers that you get in each rack. Okay, 8th rack, you will get 2 database servers, 3 storage servers. DB is database servers, SS is storage server. In quarter rack also, you will have 2 database servers, 3 storage servers. In a half rack, you will get 4 database servers, 7 storage servers. In full rack, you will get 8 database servers, 14 storage servers. So that way, any customer purchasing a full rack standard configuration will get 8 database servers, 14 storage servers. Okay. So now you might ask me a question: what is the difference between 8th rack and a quarter rack? Because in terms of number of servers, both have same number of servers, 2 database servers and 3 storage servers. Actually, the difference here is not in terms of number of servers, because both come with the same number of servers. But actually, the difference is in the capacity, actual capacity of the rack. 8th rack is half the capacity of quarter rack. So in other words, 8th rack is half as powerful as quarter rack. For example, if quarter rack has 100 CPUs, example purpose, the number is actually different. 8th rack will have half of that, that is 50 CPU, right? Similarly, if you take another resource like memory, if quarter rack has 100 GB of memory, 8th rack will have half of that, that is 50 GB. Similarly, if quarter rack has say 500 terabyte of storage, 8th rack will have half of that, that is 250 terabyte storage. So otherwise, the number of servers are same, but the actual difference is the capacity of the resources. 8th rack is half the capacity of quarter rack. Okay, so actually the story behind the screens is Oracle did not had 8th rack. Oracle had always, even till today, Oracle had only quarter rack, half rack, full racks, right? So some small customers requested for small configurations like 8th rack. So what they have done, Oracle, they have taken quarter rack system only, and from quarter rack system, they disable CPU cores from the BIOS. Half of the cores will be disabled from the BIOS. Half of the memory DIMMs will be removed from the servers. Half of the storage devices will be removed from the servers before shipping it to the customers. So it is like you want half pizza. You want half pizza. You know you cannot order half pizza, right? But I want to give you, I want to even serve you half pizza. So what I will do, I will make a full pizza, cut it into 2 halves and send you only 1 half. So that is the concept Oracle has taken. They have taken quarter rack, removed CPU, disabled CPU cores, half of the cores from the BIOS, removed half of the memory modules, removed half of the storage devices from quarter rack, and now shipped it as 8th rack. Otherwise, 8th rack and quarter rack, physically they are same only. So that way, you can understand the difference. All right. So you might start with 8th rack, because today you are a small customer, you don't have big workload, and you have small budget. So you can purchase 8th rack. Later, as your business increases, as your workload increases, you might want to upgrade to quarter rack, making it more powerful. Again, after 1 year or 2 years, you might want to upgrade to half rack. And again, later, you might want to upgrade to full rack. So that way, you can upgrade within the rack. Okay, you can scale inside the rack. From 8th rack, you can move to quarter rack to half rack to full rack. What if full rack is full? If full rack is full, You can purchase another full rack and interconnect multiple full racks and form something called multi-rack configuration. I have separate slide on that. We'll discuss about multi-rack configuration on a separate slide. So that way, you can purchase multiple racks and interconnect them so that they can act as a single rack. I know one of my customer with whom I worked has purchased 84 racks. Okay, so that is one of the world's largest banking customer, and their policy is if it is Oracle database, it must be on Exadata. That's it. There is no other hardware, no other system. If it is Oracle database, it must be on Exadata. Okay, and so that way you can scale out your system within the rack. You can scale up. Okay, and once the rack is full, you can scale out. Meaning you can purchase multiple racks and interconnect them. And when it comes to interconnecting multiple racks, you can connect a half rack and above only. Okay, you can connect a half rack with another half rack, a full rack with another full rack, like that. So the minimum configuration to interconnect is half rack. You cannot interconnect the eighth rack or quarter rack with other eighth racks or quarter racks. A half rack can be interconnected with another half rack or another full rack. Similarly, a full rack can be interconnected with another full rack or another half rack. That is the requirement. All right. Now, that is the standard configuration. So initially, in the initial versions of Exadata up to X4, that is the fifth version. Actually, technically, it is the fifth version. We had only standard rack configurations. Later, Oracle introduced elastic rack configurations because many customers demanded flexibility. Okay, because after all, customer is paying, why you want to fix the configuration? Let the customer choose what they want. Give them free hand to decide how many servers they want inside the rack, how many CPUs they want, how much memory they want, how much storage they want. After all, they are paying for that. So that is where Oracle introduced elastic rack configuration. So with elastic rack configuration, no fixed configuration. As a customer, you are the king. You decide what you want. You decide what toppings you want in your pizza. Okay, and you want a cheese burst pizza or regular pizza or thin crust, thick crust. You decide. Customize your pizza. I will deliver accordingly. So that is the concept behind elastic rack configuration. So with elastic configuration, customers can choose what type of configuration they want depending on their requirement. Accordingly, Oracle will configure the system and ship the system to you. However, in elastic rack, there are some minimum maximum requirements per rack. Okay, per rack you can have minimum 2 database servers, maximum 19 database servers. Similarly, minimum 3 storage servers, maximum 18 storage servers. Combined in a rack, you can have maximum of 22 servers. 22 servers is the maximum limit per rack. So if you want more than 22 servers, you might need to order multiple racks. So these 22 is the maximum per rack, and this 22 can be in any combination of database servers and storage servers, meeting these minimum and maximum numbers for database servers. Suppose I want say 14 database servers, 8 storage servers. 14 plus 8, 22. I reached the maximum limit. Okay, so that combination is allowed. Suppose if I want 10 database servers, 12 storage servers, I can do that. 10 plus 12, 22. I'm not going beyond max. Suppose if I want 20 database servers or 20 storage servers, that is not possible in a single server because you are hitting the max limit. 20 plus 20, 40 servers you need, but per rack, you can have only 22. So maybe you might need to purchase 2 racks. So Otherwise, you have the choice now. You can decide what you want and pay for what you want. Accordingly, Oracle will ship the rack. So that is the concept behind a standard rack configuration and elastic rack configuration. Now, continuing with the standard rack configuration, which is the old one, most of the time when you purchase Exadata machine, the first resource that you run out of quickly is storage. Because when you deploy database on Exadata, database consumes a lot of storage because database is all storage only, you store data. So storage is the number one resource for a database that is quickly consumed. So when you run out of storage, suppose your storage is consumed totally. So what next? Oracle made some exception. They gave you something called a storage expansion racks. So if you run out of storage in the rack, what you can do, you can purchase a storage expansion rack and expand the storage resource. Okay, these are specialized racks with only storage servers. They provide a storage. This storage can be used for your existing database or database backups or storing historical data, whatever. Okay, so that way storage expansion racks allows you to add additional storage to your existing standard rack. But you cannot add CPU, memory, additional database servers to standard rack. The only component that you can add is storage expansion rack that allows you to expand your storage resources. All right. So that way you understood more about Exadata rack configurations. And today, if you ask me which one is more selling, you can guess it easily, elastic rack. Okay. With the introduction of elastic rack configurations, 99.99 customers are purchasing only elastic rack because that gives you flexibility. You can choose how many servers you want inside the rack, and later you can add more servers if required and expand the system. So today, standard rack is almost died down. Okay, it has died, and only the earlier customers who have purchased a standard customers may be still running on the standard racks. Sorry. Now, next, let us talk about Exadata database machine versions. Like any software, any hardware has versions. Exadata also has versions. Okay, Exadata includes a hardware and software. Hardware version is what you are seeing on this slide. Software versions depends on the software. So when anybody asks you what version of Exadata you have, okay, the intention is what is the hardware version. Suppose if somebody asks you what is the version of database that you installed on your Exadata, they are referring to database software version. So otherwise, when somebody says what is Exadata version, what Exadata version you have, means their intention is what is the hardware version that you purchased or using in your company. So Exadata hardware versions are shown in this slide. So version 1, V1, which was the first version, and the latest version named X8M. X8M is the latest version of Exadata. Now, you can see different versions and the year of release and the month of release for all these versions. V1, V2, those are first two versions. Then third version, name is X2. Oracle changed the naming convention for the versions. From V1, V2 style, Oracle introduced X. So instead of X3, Oracle started with X2. Okay, so V1, V2, X2 is technically the third version, right? Then X3, X4, X5, X6, X7, X8, and X8M. Very good observation, Parmesh. Now, you can observe this slide, and the first box, the first Exadata rack is shown in a different color, but remaining are all similar, they are same. Okay, so why I showed you in a different color? Because it is different from other hardwares. When Exadata was released way back in year 2008, the first version of Exadata was released. At that time, the hardware, the servers were HP servers. HP servers. Software is from Oracle, hardware is from Hewlett Packard, HP. Because at the time, Oracle did not have the hardware business. So Oracle had to partner with a hardware company like HP. So Oracle partnered with HP. HP provided the servers required for Exadata. Oracle provided the software, and together they built the first system, V1. So it is the marriage between Oracle and HP. Oracle providing the software, HP providing the hardware. So that's why it is represented in different color. Now, looking at the history, you know what happened in the history. Later, Oracle acquired Sun Microsystems. And with that, Oracle got a hardware business. Because Sun Microsystems, okay, they have their own hardware, Sun servers, which are very popular at that time. And operating system, Solaris operating system, okay. So Oracle got into hardware business with the acquisition of Sun Microsystems. So once they had their own servers, their own hardware, Oracle divorced HP, okay, and started using Oracle Sun servers, their own servers. So starting with version 2, the hardware as well as the software is from Oracle. There is no HP hardware now. So it is all Oracle. All right. So that's why they are all represented in same color. They all look same. Okay. So you have Sun servers, Oracle Sun servers, and Oracle software. Oracle Linux is the operating system. Oracle Grid Infrastructure is installed. Oracle Database is installed. Oracle Exadata System software is installed. So the software, the hardware, everything is from Oracle. There is no other vendor involved here. All right. So that is the story behind this color differences between these boxes. Now, what is the difference between these versions? As I told you, when somebody says I have Exadata X7 or I have Exadata X6 or our company or our project has Exadata X5, what do they mean? Their hardware version. Okay, their hardware version, because Exadata includes a hardware and a software. So this V1, V2, X2, X3, X4, X5, these are all referring to hardware versions. So what is the difference between each version? In general, higher version will come with high-end hardware. For example, if you see X8M is the latest version. Compared to X8 version, it's a earlier version, predecessor. X8M hardware is more powerful hardware. So in X8M, you will have more CPU, more memory, more storage, more network bandwidth compared to X8. Similarly, if you take X8 and X7, X8 hardware is more powerful compared to X7. X8 may have more CPU, more memory, more bandwidth, more optimized hardware compared to X7. So that way, when a new Exadata version is released, Oracle includes the latest hardware, high-end hardware with more CPU, more memory, so that customers benefit from the more hardware resources. And X80M is the latest, greatest version, and it is very different from the rest of the versions. In X80M, Oracle changed the networking technology. Up to X8, Oracle used InfiniBand networking technology. So all the servers inside Exadata Rack were connected using InfiniBand networking technology. InfiniBand networking is the high-end networking technology used in supercomputing environments. InfiniBand is not used in typical data center environments. They are used, the InfiniBand technology used in high-end computing environments like NASA space research kind of environments. But in typical data centers, we don't use InfiniBand because it is costly and very high-end networking, very high-speed networking technology. But Exadata, because Exadata means performance, okay? So Oracle had to include all the high-end components inside Exadata system to give you that level of performance for your Oracle database. So instead of using the Ethernet technology or some other technology which you use in regular database environments, Oracle has included InfiniBand networking technology from version 1 of the Exadata. Alright, InfiniBand is RDMA capable. I will talk about this on a separate slide, maybe in next class when we discuss about Exadata networking. InfiniBand is RDMA capable, remote direct memory access. So with RDMA, it can bypass the CPU of the remote server when it accesses the data from a remote server. By bypassing the CPU, the data can be transferred very quickly between servers. So when Exadata started way back in 2008, InfiniBand was the only networking technology that supported RDMA. Ethernet networking technology did not support. That's why Oracle intentionally chosen InfiniBand networking technology, because that was the only networking technology supported RDMA capability. Now, with the advancements in networking technology, InfiniBand Ethernet networking technology also is RDMA capable. So once Ethernet technology supported RDMA capability, Oracle replaced InfiniBand network with Ethernet with RDMA capability. Okay, that is called a Rocky technology. RDMA over Converged Ethernet, ROCE, pronounced as Rocky. Rocky stands for RDMA over Converged Ethernet. So the Ethernet network supporting RDMA capability. So once Ethernet supported RDMA capability, Oracle replaced InfiniBand with Ethernet. Why? Because Ethernet is the most common networking technology used in data centers, right? So they want to use the common thing instead of using some proprietary or some special thing, which is okay, very different from the data center networking technology. So that you will have unified networking fabric in your data center. So that is what the uniqueness in X80M. So in X80M, the networking technology is not the InfiniBand networking technology. It is the Rocky networking technology. InfiniBand supports up to 40 GB per second. Rocky supports even higher, 100 GB per second. So that way, in terms of the performance also, it is 2.5 times the performance of InfiniBand networking technology. So that is the story behind all these things. Okay. Now, this slide shows you the differences between versions in terms of hardware improvements. As I told you earlier, the latest version comes with high-end hardware, more CPU, more memory, more storage, more network bandwidth, okay, and other aspects. So this slide shows you a glance of the resource enhancements across various versions. Suppose if you take a CPU, in version 1, we had only 64 CPU per rack. But now if you take X80M, we have 384 CPU cores. So that is 6 times improvement. Similarly, memory, if you take in version 1, we had a total of 256 GB memory. But now in X80M, we have 12 terabyte memory per rack. So that way, over the period of over these versions, okay, you can see how the hardware increased, the resource capacity increased on various dimensions like CPU, memory, flash, disk, network bandwidth, all those things. And you don't need to remember all these numbers, just to give you an idea of how the hardware evolved over various versions. Now let us get into hardware, more understanding of Exadata hardware. Now, when you want to talk about Exadata hardware, you need to specify the version, because just now you understood hardware differs from version to version. So when you want to understand the hardware, first question is which version? You want to understand the hardware of X6 version, X7 version, X8 version, X8M version, or V1, V2, X2. So whenever hardware details comes into picture, you need to ask a question, which version hardware you want. So here on this slide and in the subsequent slides, I am going to discuss hardware details of X6 version. Why X6 version? There is some reason here. Actually, our training doesn't depend much on hardware. Okay? Because we don't have a real Exadata server in our training environment. So yesterday I explained you, we are using a simulator in virtualized environment. So when you purchase a server, then you need to really worry about the hardware, what hardware you are purchasing, what version you are purchasing. So because we are using simulator, virtualized environment, and our learning, most of our Exadata learning doesn't depend on the hardware. The core features never change and doesn't depend on the hardware much. Some features, of course, depend on the hardware also. When such things are there, I will specifically mention the hardware. Now, the reason behind why our course uses or refers to X6 version, whenever any hardware specific references come, I will take X6 version. Because even though the latest version is X8M, if you want to go for Exadata certification exam, which is offered by Oracle, currently Exadata certification is offered for X5 version only. X5 version only. Okay, recently X8M version is released for implementation, not the administration. So this is mainly for Oracle partners who are involved in Exadata installation implementation for the customers, but mainly not for the administrators, not for the DBAs. So from that point of view, if you want to go for Exadata certification after completing my training, the certification is available, tested, validated on X5 version. But now if you see Oracle exams, certification exams, they will ask some questions on X6 version also in exam. Okay, every exam you will get one or two questions on specific to X6 version. So that's why I deliberately using X6 version in my training, so that you are covered for certification exam also. So once Oracle updates their exam to X8M version, I will offer a training on X8M version specific. But otherwise, any hardware references in my training will always be referring to X6 version of Exadata. Now, because we are going to talk about Exadata hardware, you need to specify the version X6. Now, if you purchase Exadata X6 rack, okay, you will get okay, these details. Let us understand X6 hardware. Now, Exadata database servers can be 2 CPU socket server, 8 CPU socket server. Again, carefully understand this. These are all very, very important concepts to lay the foundation for properly understanding and appreciating Exadata. So when you purchase Exadata, you know Exadata includes database servers and storage servers. These are Oracle Sun servers. Each server has its own operating system, right? Now, when you take a database server can be 2 socket server, 8 socket server. So if you purchase X6 hardware, you can order 2 socket server or 8 socket server. Accordingly, the notation will be X6 to X68. X68. So looking at this, you can tell a story. X6 means Exadata version is X6. 2 means the 2 CPU socket servers. The database servers are 2 CPU socket servers. When you look at X68, you can tell this is X6 version. The database servers are 8 socket servers. So on each database server, you will have 8 sockets. So this is 2 socket server. This is 8 socket server. In general, 8 sockets can host more CPUs on a single server, right? And this 8 socket server was introduced from X62 version. Earlier we had only 2 socket servers. More sockets means more CPUs, right? So now when you purchase a database Exadata, you can order 2 socket server or 8 socket server. In general, 8 socket server will have more CPUs on a single server. So these types of servers are suitable for large SMP applications, large data warehouses, massive database consolidation, big in-memory databases that require more CPUs on a single chassis. If your application is okay, modern application which utilizes commodity hardware, which doesn't require lot of memory CPU on a single server, then you can go for 2 socket server. Okay, so that is the difference. Now when it comes to storage servers are of 2 types: high capacity storage server, extreme flash storage server. All right, yesterday we talked about these 2 differences. What is the difference between high capacity storage server and extreme flash storage server? High capacity storage server will come with hard disk storage, flash storage, which is SSD storage. More of hard disk storage, less flash storage. Whereas extreme flash storage server comes with all flash storage. There is no hard disk storage. So if you have high IO performance requirement, suppose if your workload demands more IO performance, you might want to order extreme flash storage server. On the other hand, IO performance is not a big deal for your application. You want to store more data. You want more storage with less cost. So then you can order high capacity storage server. So that way, when you order Exadata Rack, you need to consider 2 things. Database server, you want a 2 socket server or 8 socket server. Then storage server, you want high capacity storage server or extreme flash storage server. Storage servers are always 2 socket servers only. There are no 8 socket servers in storage. That is only in the database servers. 2 socket or 8 socket is only for database servers. Accordingly, X6 to X68, X7 to X78, X8 to X88, okay, X5 to X58. So looking at the nomenclature, you can tell the story. You can understand the difference. So storage servers are always a 2 socket servers. And you either order all high capacity or all extreme flash storage server. You cannot mix them. Okay, 4 high capacity, 4 extreme flash, you cannot mix in a rack. All storage servers must be of same type. Now, this slide shows you per server details in X62 hardware. In X62 hardware. So X62 means what? X6 version 2 socket database server. That is the meaning of that. So in X62 hardware, each database server will come with 2 sockets. Those are Intel Xeon processors. Okay, the latest processor architecture, whatever is available, will be included. And with a total of 44 CPU cores. So each database server in X62 hardware will come with the 44 CPUs. That means per socket, how many CPUs? 22. 2 sockets, 222s, 42 cores. And on the database server, the base memory installed is 256 GB, which can be upgraded up to 1.5 terabyte. So this is per one database server. You know, in a rack, you will have many database servers. In a full rack, you will have 8 database servers. So if you want to get the full rack database server capacity, you have to multiply these numbers by 8. We'll talk about that in the next slide. Yesterday also we saw the full rack capacity. Then if you take a storage server at the bottom, okay, you can have high capacity storage server or extreme flash storage server. If you purchase high capacity storage server in X62, each high capacity storage server comes with 96 terabyte hard disk storage, 12.8 terabyte flash storage, which is SSD storage, and each storage server will have 20 CPU cores. Whereas if you purchase extreme flash storage server, there is no hard disk storage. You have only flash. That too, double the amount of flash that was there in the high capacity. 25.6 terabyte and 20 CPU cores. This is per server. Similarly, the networking fabric, InfiniBand network, 40 GB per second InfiniBand network is included. So these are the hardware details in X62 hardware. If you purchase X72, these numbers may be higher. If you purchase X8, the numbers may be even higher. So each version comes with more hardware capacity, more CPU, more memory, okay, more storage kind of thing. Now similarly, if you purchase X68, in X68, storage server is same, right? Networking is same. Only difference is the database servers are 8 socket servers. So 8 sockets can host more CPUs. So per socket, how many CPUs? 22. 8 to 22s, okay, 144 cores. Okay. Per socket, I think it is less, not even 22, but a total 144 cores per server. Whereas in 6.2 model, how many cores? 44 cores only. So that means 100 more CPUs in X68 hardware. And because more CPUs are there, more memory is supported. Base memory is 2 terabyte, which can be upgraded to 6 terabyte. So you can see X68 database server is more powerful than X62 database server. So such type of servers are useful to deploy large SMP workloads like large data warehouses and massive database consolidation, big in-memory workloads and all that. Now we have another slide which shows you the rack level details. What you saw just now are per server details. If you take a rack, each rack will have 2 database servers, 3 storage servers. So you will have 44 database cores, 30 cores on the storage server, and the storage, high capacity storage and extreme flash storage. Similarly, if you take a full rack, you will have 8 database servers with a total of 352 cores on the database server layer and 14 storage servers with 280 CPU cores in the storage layer. Yesterday also you saw this slide, but now you can understand more about this slide. So looking at this slide, you will understand per rack level resource details. They are very huge. Now this slide shows you database machine, Exadata machine with high capacity storage servers. How can you tell this is a rack with high capacity storage server? High capacity storage server comes with hard disks, flash storage. So these are all the hard disks and these are all the flash disks. Flash is nothing but SSD. Compared to hard disk, flash is high performance. Now again, what you need to understand is each storage server, each high capacity storage server will have exactly 12 hard disks. Exactly 12 hard disks and 4 flash disks. This number is same in every version. But the difference is the disk capacity may increase from version to version. For example, in X6, each disk may be 2 terabyte. In X7, it may be 8 terabyte, but the number is 12. Number is always 12. 12 hard disks, 4 flash disks. Then this diagram shows you, this slide shows you database machine, Exadata database machine with extreme flash storage server. How can you tell this is extreme flash storage server? Each storage server has only flash disks. There are no hard disks. All right. So that way you understood more about Exadata hardware and kind of thing. Next, let us talk about Exadata high availability, scalability, and disaster recovery features. Exadata high availability. Yesterday you learned about Exadata high availability. I already gave you some brief on the high availability features, scalability features. Exadata comes with out of the box high availability features. Okay, you have redundant database servers, redundant storage servers, redundant network configured. All the database servers are configured in active and real application clusters is installed that will protect you from individual database server failures, and it allow you to add more servers at runtime. And each server has hot swappable power supplies and fans, redundant power distribution units, which will be connected to different power sources so that even power failures also can be tolerated. Disk failures can be tolerated. And all the fans are hot swappable. Okay. And redundant storage servers, data is mirrored across the storage because the storage servers are managed with Oracle ASM. Oracle ASM can mirror the data across different storage servers, and because of that, your data is highly available. Any server failure, storage failure will not impact your data availability. And redundant networks are configured. Even if there is a network of failure, a network switch may fail, a network cable may fail, network card may fail, okay? But the communication will not stop because you have redundant networks implemented. So everywhere redundancy is built into Exadata system. There is no single point of failure. So that way, high availability is out of the box. Then scalability. Okay, Exadata is built using scalable architecture. It provides scalability. You can purchase eighth rack, upgrade it to quarter rack, then upgrade it to half rack, upgrade it to full rack. Up to here it is within the rack, right? So that is vertical scalability. Within the rack, you can add more servers and upgrade. Now, once the rack is full, once you reach the full capacity, if you want to add more servers, now you can scale horizontally. You can purchase multiple racks and interconnect them and form something called a multi-rack configuration. So that way you are scaling out of the rack now. Earlier you are scaling inside the rack. This is scale up inside the rack. This is scale out. You are purchasing multiple racks and going beyond one rack and interconnecting multiple racks. So with just InfiniBand cables, Oracle can interconnect multiple racks so that they can act as a single system. And all currently supported Exadata platforms can be combined into a single configuration and can run the latest Exadata software. And when Oracle releases new softwares, they are compatible with the old hardware. So that way your existing investments are safe and you are supported, whether you are old customer, new customer, you can always take advantages of the new software. Because Oracle, when they release new versions of the software, they ensure that the new version software is also supported compatible with the previous generations of the Exadata database machines. So that way, Exadata provides scalability. Vertical scalability, horizontal scalability, we call scale up, scale out. Then when you purchase Elastic Rack is all about scalability only, right? Elastic Racks, you can incrementally add more database servers, more storage servers, okay? And scale out the system. You can start with the minimum database servers, which is 2, minimum storage servers, which is 3, and add more database servers, more storage servers to the rack. And once you reach to full capacity, again, you can interconnect multiple racks and form multi-rack configurations. So that way, Exadata is a highly scalable system. Then, Exadata also includes some concept called capacity on-demand license. Now you understood Exadata hardware. Okay, depending on the rack, you may have hundreds of CPU cores. Okay, so when more CPU cores are there, your licensing cost also increases. Yes, because typically database software is licensed based on the CPUs. So if you have more CPUs, your licensing cost is also more. So you may not use all the CPUs. So in that case, what you can do, Oracle will give you capacity on demand licensing, which will reduce your software licensing cost. So with capacity on demand licensing, Oracle can turn off up to CPU 60% of the CPU cores on the database servers. Only 40% of the cores will be enabled. So you need to purchase the licenses for 40% CPU cores. Then when your workload is increasing, when you need more CPU on the database servers, you can enable more CPU cores in the increments of 2. Then pay that additional licensing for the enabled cores at that time. Okay, so that way upfront, you don't need to pay the licensing cost for installed CPU, only enabled CPU. Suppose if you have 100 CPUs, you don't need to purchase a license for 100 CPUs. You may purchase license for 40 CPUs. And later you can enable more CPUs and pay that incremental fee to Oracle at that time. So that way you can pay as you grow. That is called capacity on demand licensing. So Exadata includes capacity on demand licensing model. Then disaster recovery. Now you purchased the high-end system, the best system on this planet, Exadata system, to deploy your Oracle database. It comes with all high availability, scalability, excellent performance, everything is good. But what happens if the entire rack fails? If there is a disaster hitting your data center, there is a fire in the data center, all right, your rack is gone. Then how do you manage? That is where data guard comes into picture. So if you want to protect your database, your Exadata system against disasters, you need to implement a data guard. So typically what you do, you purchase the 2 Exadata racks. One you will use in the primary data center to deploy your primary database. Another one you deploy in the secondary standby data center and use it for standby database. So when the primary data center, primary server, primary rack is affected, you will activate the standby server in the standby data center and your applications will use the standby database. So this is the solution to implement disaster recovery protection. You have to have 2 Exadata racks in 2 different centers with active data guard or regular data guard implemented, and this way you can protect from any disaster. And lastly, Exadata offerings. Last but not one, Exadata offerings. So if you want to purchase, okay, what are the options? Exadata is offered on premises in the cloud. Again, cloud has 2 models, cloud at customer and Oracle public cloud. So these are all the 3 models available if you want to use Exadata. First one is on premises. In on premises model, you purchase Exadata outright. You pay outright price, total price to Oracle. They will give you the Exadata box. You will install in your own data center and you manage. It is like your own box, okay, which is installed in your own data center. Only thing is you need to purchase it outright, okay. So input cost may be very high. And other offering nowadays with cloud is you don't need to purchase it outright, okay. You can take a cloud subscription. So that means you don't need to invest a lot of money upfront. Cloud subscription is monthly billing. So you take Exadata cloud subscription, use Exadata in the cloud and pay your monthly usage bill. Like you pay your telephone bill, gas bill based on your usage, you pay Exadata cloud subscription fee. Cloud, 2 types of offerings, cloud at a customer, cloud Oracle public cloud. What is the difference? Cloud at a customer means the Exadata box is installed in your data center, okay, but Oracle manages that. It is subscription model only. Only thing is, instead of installing in Oracle cloud data center, it is installed into customer data center. Why? If you have any data residency requirements, okay, this model will be very useful. Some countries will have data residency requirements. You cannot host your data in other countries' data centers. You need to host in your own country, in your own data center. So if you have such requirements, you have the flexibility. Oracle will bring the Exadata machine, install in your data center. Okay, but who is the owner of this Exadata rack? Oracle only. You are using it and paying for your usage. It is like a lease. But only thing is it is installed into your data center. That's why it is called cloud at a customer. You will get all the cloud benefits, cloud features, cloud pricing, okay, cloud benefit. But in your own data center. Then the other one is public cloud. So here the Exadata box is installed in Oracle Cloud Data Center. You will access over internet and use it and pay for your usage. So one is in your own data center, other is Oracle Cloud Data Center. So with the cloud offering, anybody can use Exadata nowadays. That is why Exadata customers are increasing, because it is more affordable. You don't need to upfront invest a lot of money purchasing and owning Exadata system. It is like purchasing Ferrari car. How many of us can purchase a Ferrari car? Because upfront it is a lot of cost. But if you want to rent it out, you can rent it out, right? So one day, 1 hour, I can ride in Ferrari car with minimal cost that I can afford. But if I want to own it, I may not be able to own it because of the cost. So cloud is subscription based model. It is like a use and pay and use and pay, okay, or pay and use. Finally, the last slide for today is the support. Oracle offers excellent support, dedicated support for Exadata customers. You have two types of supports: premium support and platinum support. Both are dedicated to Exadata customers. Both are okay, very high-end support for Exadata customers. So you can see the differences in premier support. It is 24/7 support, and you will have access to specialized engineering system support team, which is different from the regular database support team. Okay, and 2 hours on-site response time to any hardware issues. So if any hardware fails, Oracle guarantees that they can replace that within 2 hours. Okay, and the new updates, upgrades for database server, storage server, operating system, software, everything is provided. And you have my Oracle support, proactive support, portal access, and okay, automated service request. This ASR is when any hardware component fails, it will automatically raise a service request with Oracle support. You don't need to manually raise a service request. Okay, so immediately it will raise SR, and by the time you realize there is a hardware failure, Oracle support is already working on that. So here in Platinum Premium support, these are all the features, but any updates you have to apply. Suppose if Oracle releases any patch, you need to take care of that. You will apply. Your DBA teams who are capable of managing Exadata patches, they need to apply. Oracle will not apply. But if you have platinum services, okay, platinum services, Oracle will apply the patches. Oracle will take care of updating the software. So Oracle engineers will perform quarterly patching and updates to your systems. And the platinum support is free to Exadata customers. Only thing is you need to run, okay, Exadata supportable, okay, stack. In other words, Oracle has something called a certified configuration. Okay, when your Exadata is a certified configuration, you are eligible for platinum support, which is free. So what are the certified configurations? Oracle will prescribe you your database version must be minimum this version, your storage server must be minimum this version, your operating system must be minimum this version. So if you meet those minimum version requirements, you are eligible to get a platinum support free of cost from Oracle. And the platinum support will make you eligible for more aggressive SLAs. 5-minute fault notification, 15-minute restore, 30-minute joint debugging with the development team. And Oracle performs the patching for you. You don't need to worry about the patches and all those things. So that way, you will get better support free of cost. Only thing is you need to run certified configurations. As long as your configuration is a certified configuration, you are eligible for platinum services. All right. So that brings us to the end of second day session. So very heavy session today, lot of details and a lot of concepts. Now quiz time. So let us understand how far you understood whatever we discussed in today's class. So let us have a quick and a small quiz and try your hand at this quiz. And so the first question, which of the following is not an Exadata database machine component? Quickly guess the answer and bring your answer in the chat. Quick. We'll have more questions coming on our way. Right or wrong, it doesn't matter. Just guess your answer and ping in your chat. Okay, Siddharth. Others, let us make it more interactive, more participative. No right, wrong answer, just how far you understood. Any more questions? Any more answers? I can see only Siddharth and Parmesh responded. Please go ahead. Modest, anonymous, I don't see the name. Farooq, Muhammad Farooq, Muhammad Salman, oh, Salman, Samuel. So what do you think is the correct answer? Okay, let me show you the correct answer. It's power generator. All other components will be there. Power generator is not a component of database machine. Then next question. Exadata database machine configurations include. Okay, Paramesh B. Others? Siddharth B. Okay, let us see the correct answer. B, correct. Standard configuration, elastic configuration. Remaining are all not correct configurations. Then minimum number of servers in an Exadata rack. Okay, again Parmesh and Siddharth C. 2 database servers, 3 storage servers. That is correct. Which is the following not a version of Exadata? All right, Siddharth C. What about you, Parmesh? Others? Okay, C. Okay, let us see. Correct answer is C. X1 is not there. Okay, they started with X2 directly. V1, V2, X2. Exadata provides. Siddharth D. Others? Any guess? Paramesh C. Modest D. Let us see the correct answer. It is C. Vertical and horizontal scalability. There is no angular scalability. There is no such word called angular scalability. You have vertical scalability, horizontal scalability. Exadata is available in alright, you are correct. Exadata is available only in Oracle Cloud. This is one important point you need to understand. Exadata is offered available only in Oracle Cloud. It is not available in any other cloud. What is the meaning of X62? Paramesh A. Others? modest B. Let us see. A is the correct answer. X6 is Exadata version 6. 2 means 2-socket database server. Which of the following is R true recording capacity on demand licensing? Siddharth A, Parmesh C. Alright, let us see all of the above. These are all true. You can turn off 60% course, turn on additional course as needed, license software only for active. All are true. All are correct. All the above. Yeah, correct, Mohammed. What are the two types of storage servers in x62 version? Parmesh C. Siddharth C. What about you, Mohammed? You want to come for this question also? Yeah, C. Mohammed also C. All right, let us see the correct answer. You are all correct. C. High capacity storage server, extreme flash storage server. A full rack standard configuration will have a full rack standard configuration will have Siddharth B, Mohammed could be B, okay, Parmesh B. All right, let us see. It is B. You are all correct. 8 database servers, 14 storage servers. All right, great. That brings us to end of today's session.